Well, welcome everyone to Sheltered Sages. I'm Andrew.
I am Phillip.
And this is the podcast where two formal sheltered homeschoolers, now fully fledged adults, are going to take a fresh look at the complexity of life, one messy Reddit story at a time. Each week we're going to dive into real Reddit stories, whether from Am I the A-hole or relationship advice or really anywhere on that site, and provide our own kind of opinions, because that was exactly what everyone wants.
Exactly. Totally solicited.
Yep.
Everyone wanted to hear that.
Yep, absolutely. Another podcast by two dudes in a room with microphones.
Absolutely.
Yes, we're clearly qualified to be able to handle this information.
It's something for you to just hang out with us and then hear what our opinions on it, but we also want to know like what you guys think and what the society is feeling about those things.
Absolutely. So each and every week we're going to kind of unpack some of these really tough issues and just kind of share a little bit of our own experiences, whether that be growing up as homeschooled kids or, getting out into the real world and learning what life is, kind of really like. I say really like, but there's a lot of things that happen in homeschooling that like translates relatively well to the real world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and just do a little bit of like an actual introduction. Do you want to start? You want me to start?
I'll let you start. We'll
Okay.
go with that.
All right. Well, my name is Andrew. I'm kind of a weird kind of catch-all. I do a lot of things. I'm an independent contractor. I do like legal transcription. I also am a martial arts instructor. So I teach Taekwondo. I teach this guy actually. But I actually get to work in an after-school program and teach kids on the daily basis, which is really, really fun. And then I actually do like audiobook narration and professional dungeon master for D&D and lots of other fun stuff. So just kind of like a really weird catch-all of anything. I think that is my fun fact. I don't think I have like another like really great fun fact about myself.
That's fair. I forgot that I needed to do a fun fact, so I'm going to try to think about it as I explain myself. I am a filmmaker, and to the, I guess, slight disappointment of potentially my parents, they're like, what are you doing with your life? I'm a filmmaker. That means a lot in this day and age. I do that, and I also work in media for various different functions, so...
At least you finished college. I didn't finish college. I got my AA degree, but my parents were like, you could finish college in that.
Yeah, it's a thing, and in some cases it's important. In other cases, you're like, hey, I could have been so many other things instead of college.
Yeah. Well, I am planning on pursuing an educator route, and they're literally like, if you have an AA degree, we will stick you in a classroom. Well, it's not an AA. If it's a bachelor's degree of any kind, they will stick you in a classroom. It's kind of wild, but I have to like go through a whole process if I'm going to do that. Which, we'll see. We'll see if that happens.
You can do it.
You'll journey along with me as I try and figure all of this out. So, might be doing all of that on top of going back to school and getting a education degree. But
absolutely. A little bit about both of us as well.
Yes.
We are friends.
Yes.
We know each other. He trains me in Taekwondo, but also we talk outside of that well.
That's the funny thing is like we're both homeschooled, but we didn't meet until we were both adults. That's the funny part.
Yes.
Like so I grew up in Florida my whole life, and you grew up in
North Carolina.
I always get this wrong. I want to say South Carolina.
No, it's
I don't know why
I
keep doing that. But they're not though. They're two very different states. But yeah, we didn't meet until my wife and both my girlfriend at the time, your girlfriend, who were roommates. Dragged us out on like a double date.
Yep.
And that was like the first time you and I had met, and we pretty much left them in the dust in terms of our conversation. We were just sitting there, we were talking about movies. I think we were we were vibing over what's the Mike Flanagan TV show?
Oh, I don't know.
Haunting of Hill House.
Oh,
we were talking about like the cinematography of all of that, how the camera shoots, and that the funeral episode. Such a good episode.
If you haven't seen it,
you need to watch that.
Is it TVMA?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
it is for adults.
If you are of age, watch the show.
Watch that, or if your parents give you permission, because
absolutely,
great show though. But anyways, yeah, so we just kind of hit it off really quickly, and it's very hilarious because every time that our wives now hang out and we're there, it's very much just like, all right, you just go do your thing, and we're gonna go hang out and be nerds.
They send us off to have fun, and when we do have fun, it's a great time.
It is.
So we decided to do a podcast, and we're like, hey, we can talk about things, and then allow other people to hear what we're talking about, because maybe just maybe, someone out there is like, I agree, or maybe you don't agree, and you just want to hear us talk.
Weird. Like, who gave these guys a microphone?
But you've made it this far. So, I mean,
That's very
maybe
true.
you're still interested. Maybe you do want to hear what our opinions are, or maybe you're just waiting for something crazy to happen, which I cannot promise will or will not happen because I don't know what happens next.
You don't have time. You can't see the future.
I cannot see the future.
Ugh, you gotta get on that. That's like second level black belt stuff. We'll get you there.
Okay, yeah,
It's coming.
I'll work on it.
No, but yeah, so they're probably actually just like waiting for us to get started. They're just going to skip ahead on the podcast and just be like, all right, in 30 seconds.
For the people who are listening in the future, the episode starts now.
Okay, so what we're going to be doing, because as I said, I work in an after school program. I work around kids a lot, and I plan on working as a teacher in the future. We're going to keep things relatively PG. PG-13 maybe, but I want to keep things PG. So we are going to be reading Am I the A-Hole stories, which if you do not know, Am I the A-Hole is basically a subreddit where people write their own stories. They submit them to the Reddit, and the community just kind of decides whether or not they were the good or bad person in a scenario. And so instead of saying, am I the a-hole over and over and over and over again, recently I heard a very fantastic insult, which I love. And so we're going to be deciding whether or not people are the picklefoot.
Incredible.
Yeah. So so hilariously, the insult comes from a group of other homeschoolers that my wife knows. And so she was telling me about it. I'm like, that's brilliant. I want that. So apparently it's like there's a sign language thing. So like it's like they do the P with their fingers and they put it up like that. So that's how you make pickle. And then they would do pickle and then point the finger to the palm, which is like foot. In sign language. So it's just pickle foot. And so they call themselves each other's insults, which is something we'll get into because of all of the other kids in all things homeschoolers, at least if you grew up in like a Christian homeschool household, which a good portion I think of homeschoolers were,
kind of goes together.
Kind
peanut
of
butter and jelly
not
type
much
thing.
anymore these days. There's like a whole different groups and things. But back in the day, most of the time you were Christian. And so we weren't allowed to swear. Like we couldn't even say shut up. No. That was we couldn't even say darn. Like that was inappropriate. It was a substitute for a curse word, and therefore was the same thing as swearing.
I mean, they let us say darn eventually in my family, only because we had to look up the meaning of darn, which is basically on the end of a sock. Like if there was a hole in it, you would darn it. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, like on the comments or something like that, but you would take a needle and close it up, and that would be darning a sock.
I've
like
never
closing
heard
a
that
hole.
before.
So, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I just found that in my dreams somewhere, or maybe we just looked up a random Wikipedia and someone put it in there. But like, that's what it should mean, and maybe I'll look it up, something like that. But we were allowed to say it for that reason.
That's hilarious.
I'm so sorry for you.
No, I was never allowed to say it. And it wasn't until I was like 15, I'm like, oh, I can just swear when I'm not at the house. But guess what? When I wasn't at the house, I was probably at church. So kind of ruined that too. It wasn't, I think, till like 19 when I actually started aggressively swearing. I was in theater and all of that stuff, and I was working tech crew. And if you want to learn some fun swears, work with a tech crew. Because that's but also don't do that, kids. I mean, work with tech crew, because tech crew is like literally the linchpin of a theater group. But anyways,
that's fair. Yeah, I was right. It's a close something with network. So, boom.
That's awesome.
Little word for you.
All right. Well, I think we've done enough preamble, and I think we're going to delve right in. So we're not just going to do Am I the Picklefoot stories every single week. I think we're going to switch it up, do some different, like maybe relationship advice, things like that. We've got some themes planned for like specific episodes and stuff. But for this week, we're just kind of doing like a catch-all, I think, of just getting a little bit of everything in there.
To preface everything, I do not know the stories he's going to read to me.
Yes, that's what I'm really excited about.
He does not know the stories that I'm going to read to him.
And I'm terrified.
So it's the first time we'll be able to actually hear these stories and come up with who we think is the picklefoot in those situations. So, yeah. It'll be fun.
All right, you want me to start first? Or do you want to start
first? Let's go. Give me the first story. Right. Let's do it.
All right, let's see. Am I the picklefoot for accepting an invitation on my husband's behalf that I knew he wouldn't like and refusing to cancel it? Is it, interesting? Soft start.
Yeah, interesting. I'm going to say yes, but we'll see.
We'll find out. Yeah. That's the best part. My favorite thing of these stories is like these titles where you're like, I feel like I should be able to make a pre-assumption, but as they say with books and covers, you're probably right, but... All right.
That was unexpected. Go ahead.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with the story. My husband is a busy person, but he's not such a busy person that he can't manage invitations from his family and friends if he wanted to. His friends and family act like I'm responsible for his social calendar, which I didn't mind at first because I didn't have anything better to do, but I'm tired of being the one to have to say no to everything, and it sucks having to deal with people trying to convince me to come to things when I know they only really care about my husband attending. I've tried to get them to go to him directly, but he just sends them back my way or ignores them, so they come to me anyways. I've spoken to him multiple times about not wanting to be responsible for our social calendar, and he acts like he gets it, but then he never responds to invites, so nothing changes. Yeah, that's not great. So, I've done something that you guys may or may not think is petty. My mother-in-law has asked for us to join monthly family dinners with her side of the family. I prefer her side of my husband's family, but my husband is closer to his dad's side, so we see him more. Usually, I wouldn't accept an invite like this without checking with my husband, but since she asked him first and he ignored her, I decided to accept on his behalf. The first dinner is on Sunday, which is the day we were also supposed to have dinner with his grandfather on his dad's side, but he never told me that this was happening, and neither did anyone else. His dad's side have a horrible habit of just assuming we'll be at something because they've told us. Oof, I've been there.
Yeah.
Oof,
yeah.
Don't love that. Part of me thinks the dinner with his grandfather is a lie because I know he's been avoiding his half-brother like the plague since he keeps asking him for an investment and his step-siblings will be there. Weird side.
It's like so much drama that's happening
really
here. It keeps getting deeper.
Yeah, I feel like this has nothing to do with the point, but I love you. My husband told me to cancel, but I don't want to because my mother-in-law was so happy when I said yes. Also, his sister will be there, and I haven't seen her in forever. I won't stop him from canceling if he really wants to, but he's turned this situation into a fight because I didn't ask him first, and now I don't want to be the one to cancel. He's basically said if we go to the first one, he expects me to tell my mother-in-law this won't be a regular thing, but I think he should be the one to do that since I have no problem having dinner with him regularly. Am I the picklefoot? Right? See, like, the title was misleading. You go into it being like, yes, and now you're just like, oh, this is drama.
I mean, I'll be honest, I was waiting for her to say, yeah, his sister's going to be there, and she's like in the FBI, and she's looking, and it's like, it just gets deeper and deeper.
Like, he sells drugs on the weekend, and so it's a weird family dynamic.
Yeah. It's like, wow, okay, what else are you not telling us about everything?
So, like, do you guys have like an illegitimate sibling that no one's talking about? Yeah, no, that's how some of these Reddit stories go, where you're just like, which makes me happy because I know they're written by real people, because real people put in so much unnecessary additional information when they're telling a story.
Yeah.
So I think a good rule of thumb when we're reading these stories is just to, by default, unless there's some kind of contradiction that we can pull out in the text, believe what the person is saying.
That's fair.
At the very least. Because, I mean, there probably will be times where we're like, that just can't be a real thing that's happening. But I think if we start on a basis of an assumption of this is real.
Honesty.
Yeah. And that'll just make it more exciting for our dialogue.
So I'm going to talk through it a little bit, just because, like, the first part. I'm assuming it's she's in charge of the calendar?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
she's in charge of the calendar.
I don't have ages for anyone, which is already a weird thing, because sometimes, like, by default, normally people put in the ages of things.
Exactly.
So we don't know if this is, like, a young married couple or an older married couple.
Yeah.
Not that necessarily changes it, but sometimes that's things you learn as you get older.
Yeah, a little bit different. I say it's obviously unfair for her to have to take care of the shared calendar. That said, I see in a lot of relationships how that happens, especially if you guys are a couple that stays together often or goes to a lot of places. It's like, okay, having one calendar that both of you can listen to and be like, oh yeah, this is where we're going.
Like
this
the
is what we're
Google
doing.
Calendar or Apple Calendar. Yeah,
that's fair. Especially if both of you are going somewhere, then one person agreeing of it should be fine. Now, using that, I don't like that I'm the only one who's doing the shared calendar to say that I can just accept things without asking you.
Yeah.
I don't think that's actually as fair, but also, like, probably just need to have a conversation about who's supposed to be in charge of the calendar.
And that's the thing. So, like, in the story, she says that she's talked to him about not wanting that responsibility. Like, she's wanting it to be something that, like, they can go and talk to him about.
Yeah.
But he ignores them or sends them to her. And so it's like, it's not, it's a little petty.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, okay, so if you're not going to let people run things by you and send them to me, and you don't want to talk about this, you're just expecting me to make these decisions, then why are you getting upset when I make the decision?
Yeah.
Like, it's
like you want power, but you don't want to say that you have the power. So you're like pretending like, oh yeah, make any decision you want. And it's like, how about this one? And like, no, I don't want that one. Not that one.
I've never
That's
heard
not the
that
correct answer.
It's like that. See, I don't watch Friends, but I've seen the meme in Friends where it's like, we want you to help with the wedding planning. And it's like, pick one of the flowers. And they stick the photo of the flowers that they want him to pick directly in front. I don't know the names of any of the characters, but you know.
Nah, I haven't seen it either.
So,
the second part, the actual event. So it's like, it adds another layer of complication where it's like, okay, there's something going wrong in the family. Not necessarily wrong, but there's something going on in the family where it seems like he doesn't want to be involved with the people that are going to be there.
Yeah.
And if she knows that he doesn't want to be involved, I say, like, as a partner, you probably should pay more attention to those kind of things. But also, maybe this isn't the first time. Maybe he's acted like this before. He knows how it's going on. She already said that the in-laws, they like invite them to places and just expect them to be there.
That's his side of the family. His dad's side of the family. His mom's side of the family, no, which is the one that has this dinner. And it sounds like has been very upfront with like, hey, I'd love this to be something that we do consistently.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's interesting because like we have something very similar in my family where it's like, you know, I live closer to my wife's parents than I do my parents. Not like terribly far, like 45-minute drive one way or the other, which depending on where you're listening might sound terribly far away. But when you live in Central Florida, that's just like a typical afternoon.
That's fair.
So, but it is hard when you're like, hey, last minute, let's grab dinner somewhere. So my mom is very intentional about like, let's have a Sunday dinner once a month. Usually coincides with when I do testing because I do black belt or martial art or taekwondo testing on the same Sunday, usually over there, just because it all kind of coincides nicely together. So I'm already over on that side of town. But it is this idea of like, there's a clear communication from one side of the family. Yeah. And there's a clear lack of communication from the other side of the family. And I think that's really what it's going to narrow down to. Yeah. It's like, they need to communicate more. Yeah. And he needs to take responsibility for that.
Yes. It seems like he's one of those people that just like sits in the back, doesn't talk very much, because even it said like, was it her mom was inviting him somewhere, he didn't really say anything, and then it's like, okay, but now you're upset because I said yes, right, in front of you. Like, it wasn't even private. It's right there. You could have spoken up and said something, but it's like, now you're upset.
And I think she invited him first and he never said anything, so they asked mom, and it's like,
yeah. So communication.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so at the end of the day, is she a picklefoot?
No, she's not the picklefoot.
He's the picklefoot.
I kind of feel bad for her.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is it's like whenever there's one of that like that expectation of too much expectation placed on one person, is where you come into problems. And I think that's where that narrows down to.
That's fair.
Some comments that I think are really interesting, and I think we should always get our verdict before we go into the comments.
Absolutely,
unless the comments add details to it, which
unless
I think sometimes
don't agree with the comments, and it's like no,
you're wrong. Yeah. So the comments are pretty in line with us. The actual overall post itself did label her as not the picklefoot. Yep. So first comment, not the picklefoot. Apparently your husband has delegated to you the task of being his calendar secretary. He implicitly sent his mother to you when he didn't respond to his mother. If he doesn't like how you are handling your duties as his calendar secretary, he is free to demote you and resign those responsibilities. I like that.
Ooh, okay, serious.
I like it. Another comment. Since you hate managing your husband's social calendar, stop doing it. They come to you, or he sends them back to you. They come to you, or he sends them back to you. Speak for yourself only. I'll be there, but you'll have to ask husband about his plans. You could advise them that if they don't hear back from him, they should consider that a no. Ooh. And this dinner with your in-laws, your husband is not committed to going. You might be going by yourself. Hope that works for you. That one got an award. People like that comment.
That's nice. Yeah, it's true. I like that. It's also sad, though, because you should communicate that. It shouldn't be a situation where you have to, I don't know if my husband's coming or not. Right. But, like, yeah.
Especially when it's your own family. Like, that's the awkward part, is, like, the in-law shouldn't have to be doing that. There's no updates or anything to that story, so that's just kind of how that one ends.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, so that was our first story. Not too intense. Wanted to start off with something light, something a little bit more, fun. I say fun. That's not the word, but fun.
Interesting. I say that. Okay, I've got one for you.
Okay.
We'll see how this feels. Let's see. It's kind of. I already have opinions, but I want to know your opinions.
That's fair. That's kind of. I've tried not to develop too many opinions on my own stories.
Yeah.
But, you can't help after reading.
After reading, you're like, oh, okay.
All right.
So, the title. Am I the picklefoot for refusing to pay my friend $60 that I owe him?
Oh gosh.
Have you read this
one? No, but
okay.
Anytime money's involved, it's never just in general. It's so bad to loan your friends money.
Yeah.
Anyways,
okay.
Go ahead.
Here we go. I, a 30-year-old person, and my close friend Jake, who's 29, have been close for years. Over the years, I've lent Jake money so many times. I'm talking $50 here for gas, $100 here during a trip, even $300 when he needed to buy an emergency PS5.
That's not an emergency.
I mean, you never know.
I mean,
you don't know his life.
I can't say anything. We just bought another PS5 so that we can play.
See? Yeah. He bought an emergency PS5.
It wasn't. We had the money for it, so it wasn't an emergency. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
I've never really kept track because I trusted him. He paid me back some of it over time, but he still owes me a decent chunk, which I've never bugged him about. He would occasionally gift me skins in the game that we play in an attempt to balance the books. A few weeks ago, Jake covered my $60 when I left my wallet at home during a group dinner. I told him I'd get him back, but life got busy, and I totally forgot. A few days ago, he texted me, "Can you send me that $60 from dinner?" I apologized for forgetting and said I'd send it that night, to which he replied, "I shouldn't have to chase you for this, man."
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that.
That rubbed me the wrong way.
Yes.
I didn't say anything in the moment, but it really started to bug me. I thought about all the times that I lent him money and how I never pressured him to pay me back. I've never once sent him a passive-aggressive text or made him feel bad about it. So I didn't send him the money right away, and instead told him, "Look, I get that I owe you $60 and I'll pay you back, but let's not pretend this is some one-sided thing. You still owe me hundreds, and I've never hounded you about it." Jake didn't take that well.
Of course he didn't. How dare you hold someone accountable?
Exactly. He said, "It's not the same thing because I never asked for my money back. So it's on me if I didn't care enough to get it." So now he's upset at me thinking I did not pay him back intentionally and saying that I'm deflecting to avoid paying him back and that I'm being a stupid friend.
Oof.
I feel like I'm in a weird spot here. Yeah, I owe him $60 and of course I'll pay him back. But on the other hand, his reaction feels so hypocritical given everything I've done for him financially over the years. Am I the picklefoot?
That's a... Whew. I mean, very quickly I can give you my answer.
Yeah.
But also, let's delve into this a little bit because it's okay... spotting people, that happens all the time. Like,
Yes.
you and I have spot each other. I shut you down a lot because you keep trying to pay for things. I'm like, no. We literally the other day,
Yeah.
we fought over who was going to pay for corn dogs at one of the theme parks. It was great.
Yeah.
But that's, and I mean this, that's what you do when you're good friends with someone. Is you just sometimes you'll cover, sometimes the other person will cover.
Absolutely.
You don't keep tab of it, which it sounds like he's kind of doing at the beginning, even though. And I mean, he's not really holding it against the guy, but he's very much just kind of I know he owes me money.
Yep.
And hundreds of it. So there is a part that is keeping a tab. Which
It's just ticking in the back.
Yeah. Which is one of those things where I'm just okay, that's the first problem. Is you're seeing this as I'm letting this person borrow money from me.
Yep.
And once I let, so I'm expecting this money back, which already is just going to create a winch or a... What's the word I'm looking
Chasm
for?
between?
Yeah, a wedge in the friendship because it's now there's that power imbalance because one friend owes the other friend money, and so it's okay, now I can call on that favor if I need to. So Let's talk about the $300 PS. The emergency part.
The emergency
only way, and I mean this
PS5.
genuinely, the only way I can see that being a quote unquote emergency is in the situation where, like, back when they first came out and you had to like reserve a slot for one. Did you ever get involved in that?
No, I did not. So I know it went quickly. Yeah.
I did, yes. So I was like part of like 7 different like alerts where I would get alerted that they were going to sell like 400 of them, and you had to try and get in the queue. Yeah. And I tried for I think 4 months to try and get one. And when I finally got one, I was like in my car and I looked and I was like, and I think we were engaged at the time, either my wife or my fiance or my girlfriend at the time.
Yep.
I was talking to her about it, and I was just like, okay, I have this in my thing. It's in the cart. Yeah. Are you cool if I buy this? And she'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Like we looked at it, and it was like we went in on together because like we knew we were both gonna play it. But then I was like, so that was where I could get like an emergency $300 for a PS5. That's the only way. But even then, I don't know. And I will also say, this is something important. I'm going off on a tangent, I know. But so he talked about like buying skins in the video game that they play.
Sure.
That's nothing to sneeze at in terms of the financial property of it.
Okay. So go ahead. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Go ahead with your opinion. No, you're good.
No. Okay. So,
not that I'm defending you in any capacity. I want to make that clear.
$300 from a friend, right? Not to say I haven't borrowed money or borrowed anything before, but like if I'm asking my friend for $300,
that's the first thing I'm doing is paying them back.
That's a lot of money. Yeah. Like maybe to everyone else, you're like, oh, $300. I give it to my friends all the time. Like I don't think
I want wherever you're comfortable financially to just throw out $300.
$300. That's a good chunk of cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gifting skins. I understand it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Is it $300 though?
I will say it adds up quickly. As someone, I'm not saying, I want to be very clear, I'm not saying, but as someone who, thankfully, I am in recovery, was a League of Legends addict and spent way too much money on skins.
Yes.
It very quickly, like, if a skin is like, the basic skins might be like $10.
Yeah.
Right? So if you get the epic skin, sometimes those are $25, sometimes even like $40 because we don't know what game it is that they're playing.
Oh, yeah.
So like if he's buying like $40, $50, $60, like, you know, he's dropping money on these games that could add up very quickly. Now I'm not saying,
but then why isn't he saving the money from these skins and just
I don't know.
Like you have money, obviously you're able to pay for skins,
so it's like what's going on? Pay back. But that's what. Tangents aside, sorry,
no, you're good.
But yeah, tangents aside, I mean, it's he's not the picklefoot.
He's not the picklefoot?
No, I don't think he's the picklefoot. I think it's a little cringy, in my opinion, to be like, yo, you owe me money, I'm not going to pay you back. Yeah. Because it's clear, at least from his perspective, he was going to do it. And then the person, like, for then that person, to that friend to come and be like, you owe me this money. Yeah. And because you never asked for the money back, I didn't have to pay. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Nope.
No. So, not, in my opinion, not the picklefoot. Could have been handled better, but honestly, what I think needs to happen is it's like, it just sounds like they're not really that good of friends.
Nope.
And it sounds like he needs to pay him back the $60 and say, like, I'm sorry, we're not going to hang out anymore. Yeah. Or, like, if we're hanging out with friends, I'll say hi to you, but I don't think we need to keep this close of friends.
I'll hop in and I'll say I have a slightly different perspective on that situation. So first, no, he's not the picklefoot.
Good.
That said, growing up, I was taught, which was a hard thing to understand, never let anyone borrow more than you're willing to give away.
Yes.
And
was that a Dave Ramsey quote?
It probably is a Dave Ramsey quote. You know Dave Ramsey. Shout out to Dave Ramsey.
Or not. That's fine.
Not. He's complicated, but
complicated relationship with Dave Ramsey.
It's complicated. A lot of things good, some things bad. Anyways, it was never give away more, or never let anyone borrow more than you're willing to give away. And it's less on the side of the person that you're giving the money to, because it's like, okay, even if you trust them to give you that money back or that object back, things can happen. Stuff can be complicated. Do you want to ruin your friendship or your relationship with that person over something that you've let them borrow? Why it gets complicated is because if you're really thinking about how much you're willing to give away, it's like, you know, comparatively, like $20 versus $300, that's a lot. Like, $20, $20, like you need that if I know you and I'm friends
That's
with
a
you,
night out at Chili's.
yeah,
Like,
here you go. That's fine. $300, maybe not.
that's a car payment.
But what that changed my ideas towards is like, I want to be comfortable if someone's asking me for that I can have a financial situation where I can say, yeah, if you need it, here. If you want to pay me back, that's fine. But also, I feel comfortable not paying me back without that ruining our friendship. I might go, hey, you told me you pay me back, and it's more of a thing of you promised something and I want you to keep your promise, and less of I need that stuff back.
Yeah.
Like, give me
like,
that.
This is more of like, it's not about the money, it's about the principle in that regard.
Exactly.
And
it feels like this person is, even with the principle there, they're like, hey, you owe me a ton and I'm keeping track of it in my head, and you're always going to be in debt with me. If I was the other friend there, he should have paid him back that money and not been weird about it. But it's like, I start thinking in my head, oh, all those times I borrowed money from this dude, he's still remembering it and he's keeping track of it in his head, but not telling me.
Yeah.
So like, even if we're close friends, I know he's always thinking, when am I going to get that $300 back? And that's not great.
No, and I think in another tick against the friend asking for the money back, if it was a situation, like let's say, for example, like you and I went out to dinner, I grabbed the bill and things like that, and all of a sudden rent came due, and like all of these emergency things came due, and so I popped a tire, and suddenly that $60, I need that back.
Yeah.
And so like if that were the situation, and he prefaced it was like, hey, the other night when I paid you $60 for dinner, would you mind paying that back as soon as you can? This is the situation.
Yes.
And like it kind of in that regard, it narrows down again to that like idea of communication, of like being open about what that situation is that you need the money for.
Yeah.
But if you're just like, I need my $60 back, I don't appreciate that I have to chase you down for it.
But
also chase me down for the money. It's like, this new video game's coming out. Monster Hunter's coming out at the end of February. Let's go, folks. So it's cringe.
I'll give you some of the comments towards there, since we agree with that. I like that. The first comment is, Jake is a hypocrite. Also an unblushing user. Time to make him grow up, OP, or original poster. Send him a new text. Hey, Jake, this whole thing is leaving a bad taste in my mouth. We both know that you owe me way more than $60. I haven't been hounding you for it, but that doesn't change the fact that you borrowed the money, you said you'd pay it back, and you owe me. It's been bugging me for quite a while. My best calculation of the total you owe me is $450. I talked to a couple folks. I'm going to take their advice here. I'm setting off my $60 debt against your $450. So now you owe me $390. And just so things don't get weirder than they are right now, please understand that I can't lend you any more money until that $390 is paid off.
Yeah, I think that's only fair.
Yeah.
I think that's... I mean, again, a little blunt, but like at this point in time, the person's acting like a debt collector, and so it's only fair to respond in like a, hey, you're gonna call me up for that money, I'm gonna call you up for the money you owe me. And it's
gonna play that game. We're gonna play that game.
And I love that they called him the hypocrite, because it's like, it's so true that like he's like, you have to, like, it's like, I shouldn't have to chase you for money, but if you wanted your money back, you got to pay me back for what you owe me. I'm like, that's so silly. I can't.
There's one more comment that I really liked that they put down there. It says, neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry.
Okay, so that sounds like it's from Proverbs, but is that from something else?
It is from something else. It's not from Proverbs. I looked it up. It is from Shakespeare. It's a quotation from a speech by Polonius to his son Laertes in Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 3. And it actually goes, neither a borrower nor not a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. So basically he's telling his son to be careful with his money, because if he loans it to the friend, he may like forget to pay it back, and it could ruin their relationship. No, so basically what we were talking about before.
That's the quality entertainment you get here, guys. We do Shakespeare. But no, that sounds like That sounds like something in Proverbs too. Just
It does.
like again, back to homeschool. Read a lot of Proverbs. Did you also have to read Proverbs
Monthly.
like every day, every
Yep.
month? Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
So like, it's a cool thing if you don't know the Bible. Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, is like this whole book of a collection of like wise sayings and things like that, written by King Solomon, if I'm remembering correctly.
Partially.
That's how I was always told, anyways. And which I know nowadays as a historian, they're like, oh wait, no, that's not true.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Psalms. It's a whole other fiasco. But regardless, so there are 31 books or 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. And so like, as I'm glad to know that you had to do it too. As a homeschooler, every day of the week, I had to read whatever date it was, that chapter in Proverbs as part of like my morning part of my work.
To hopefully get it in your mind and your heart and your soul, which is great. Because they do come back up later, and you're like, I know that proverb.
And I will say this too, as someone who has walked away and come back and been like, there's some really good stuff in Proverbs actually. Like there's some very traditional looks at some things, but there are some very wise sayings in Proverbs too. That'll be for a whole other episode though.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
not the picklefoot.
Not the picklefoot. I agree. All right, ready for your next one?
I am
All
ready.
right.
Wow me, my friend.
Am I the picklefoot for not knowing my girlfriend wants to be 30 minutes early to yoga?
No. What?
Don't make your assumptions yet.
Okay.
All right. For context, my girlfriend is getting her yoga certifications and is hosting a free class for the public today. So the night before, I went to bed, understanding that we just had to be there before 10 a.m. Mm-hmm. So this morning...
Wait, hold on. Today. So this is happening like now in the story.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, because that's the first thing I do when I make a mistake is I jump on Reddit and be like, am I wrong?
So this is all happening
Sit
currently.
there and tell me that I'm wrong.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're good. That's a great question. Oh goodness. So this morning I went on a morning walk with my buddy who just had a baby to grab coffee and stroll his daughter around. I left the house at 8:30 a.m. dressed ready for yoga so we could leave when I got back. Come 9:20, she's starting to text me, and I can notice she's starting to freak out and asking me where I am, but I was confused because I knew I had enough time to get back home and drive to the studio. I start rushing back home, but I get texts on the walk back saying stuff like, how could you do this to me? I'm so stressed out, and other things of the sort, but got back at 9:35ish to hop in the car and go. While on the car ride over, she's crying and saying stuff like, why can't you think? This is like a job interview. I needed to be there 30 minutes early, and that I am throwing her teaching rhythm off. These are all in quotes, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
But I had no idea she needed any of that, and said
Yeah.
I need it to be a son. This is me doing my best to correct grammar as I'm reading it. I'm sorry.
Fine. I mean, he's writing it right now.
I know, it's like as it's happening. He's sitting in the car. Or she. I don't actually know the genders of these. They weren't specific, I don't think.
Okay.
But they yes. And said, I need to be assumptive of her needs, while she framed this as a casual yoga event. I was also thrown off since I didn't start the class until 11:45, and she had to be there earlier, so the ask of just getting there before 10 seemed like that already allotted for the prep time she needed beforehand. We got there at 9:50, and she is still crying and asking, why can't you just think?
Oh, she's crying now.
She's crying now, yes.
Okay.
And I tell her that I really had no idea of the additional requirements and really have no idea what to say because I got us there before 10. All I could say is we're going in a loop and wasting time since the conversation/argument goes in the same direction, and we should focus on being here and moving on for now so we can get her yoga done and revisit it after she's done. I started feeling like a picklefoot when she wanted my support to get her back in the groove, but would also ask why I was the victim. And I told her that I really don't feel like I did anything wrong, since she never specified that this was a critical class, and never mentioned that she wanted to be extra early, since she had the chance to let me know the night before and right before my walk to give me proper time and expectations. I feel since I got us there before 10 that she was overreacting. I just don't know how to proceed or what to say when I saw her later in class and when I came back to pick her up. So that's the end of the story. Isn't that interesting?
All right. I'm going to preface this by saying I've been there. It's happened before. it comes down, and I think a lot of these things come down to communication. You have to communicate on both sides of this. There was not good communication. There was not good setting of expectations of what was going to happen or timing or anything like that. That said, I feel that the OP, he's valid in what he's talking about.
Or she.
Or she, yes. They are valid. That said, their partner is being very emotional right now. And I don't think trying to come at them with logic on, hey, you didn't tell me this was super important to you, and now that you're crying, I feel like you should just suck it up and go do your thing because I don't have time to talk to you about how you're feeling emotional. Like, obviously, that's going to make them feel better, right?
Yeah, because that's the cold, hard logic diffuses all emotions of negativity instantly.
Exactly. And it's like they feel completely valid on, oh, okay, yeah, I don't understand why they're still crying, even though they're super, like,
Even
this
though
is
I
something
was
important.
not in the wrong.
Yeah, this is something that's very important to them. They're probably already stressed. They're probably already very tense about what's going on, the time they need to be there, and how much they want you to be involved in this. Yes, they should have explained it to you before and said, this is going to be a very stressful moment for me. Regardless of what goes on, I really need you to be there and like work with me through it. But they didn't. That said, once you realize that this is far more important than you thought it was, step up.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of be like, hey, I get that it's going through. And the same way he's going, it's like, oh, we can talk about this later. No, you settle down and be like, hey, I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
Whatever I need. Right. It's not really fair for him to be the victim or they to be the victim.
Yeah.
But like, still, it's like,
This is why we put clear clarifications in our
Please.
Reddit posts so we can properly pronoun you.
we're trying. We're trying.
trying.
Thank you. But still, it's like, come on,
Yeah.
step up at that point.
And I think that's where like I struggle a little bit because I am a big proponent of the clear communication, things like that. But like, okay, so further delve into who Andrew is as a person.
Yeah.
I have ADHD. So I'm one of those people that like, when I have something planned, I plan out every step prior to that to make sure that I'm on time. So
fair.
like, for me, if I have a doctor's appointment at 12, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I am like calculating how much time I have left to get to that doctor's appointment and thinking about like all the little pieces and individual stuff that I have to do. And it is one of those things where it's like, I feel like I can't schedule anything in the morning. I have a doctor's appointment at 12, but I'm like,
fair,
you have
yeah.
4 hours between that doctor's appointment starting and not.
It's not real.
It's not.
It's hard. It's illusion.
I think it's called time blindness is
Yes.
what it is. Yeah,
Yes.
time blindness is rough, guys. Or I sometimes on the opposite side, and it's like, oh, I have plenty of time to do this thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you have 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, but regardless. So I'm one of those people that like, I would be there early just by default because I don't want to be late for something. I only start showing up to things late when I know I have that flexibility to kind of like get there, because that's how I am when it comes to like starting for classes, because I drive all the way from like an hour and 5 minutes from like my day job to teaching on my Monday night classes at Taekwondo.
Yeah.
And so like, I know because of traffic, I'm going to get there when I get there. And the people that are there waiting for me know I'm going to get there when I get there. So they don't put the pressure on me to like set up or things like that. I make it up for it in other ways, guys. I'm not just like a terrible
No, he's great.
instructor
Yeah.
in that regard. But that all being said, communication. Like, I love that. I feel like that should be like something we title. I think is like communication is key.
Communication, please.
Let's start a podcast. Communication is what we're going to be pitching, but yeah, no, I mean that's what it is it's like, and I think, and that's the thing is I'm gonna delve into the comments a little bit early because I think he clarifies some things in his comment. Let me pull up the story because I saw this later, because there are some very interesting things, because one of the other reasons I want to do this story, it's a very confusing story.
Yeah.
Because like not like the writing is rough, which as we agreed, they kind of didn't do it well in terms of like the way that they were writing and everything like that. So I think it's really interesting looking at it. I actually, the post has actually been deleted by Am I the Picklefoot?
Okay.
So let's see. He has like a thank you post to people, which I'll read in a little bit.
Okay.
But
And while you're looking at that too, it's really interesting to people listening. It's important to understand that one, your partner is not a mind reader.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how well you can read their minds or they can read yours, you need to communicate, especially if you're stressed or you're tired or something's going on. They're here to support you in that. And even if they can't support you, at least let them know what you're feeling. That way they have a better contextual idea of what's going on. And then beyond that, once your partner is communicating, it's super important to kind of slow down, listen, and recognize what that means. If you don't have the time to listen, that's okay. Let them know, like, right now I'm really stressed or I'm really busy. I'm not going to really fully get what information you're telling me. Of course, this is not official relationship advice.
Of course
I'm not an advisor
licensed.
or anything like that, but I'm just saying,
from
like,
our own experience,
in general, it helps out better when you slow down, you listen to what they're saying, and also you communicate to them how you're feeling.
Yeah. So I'm reading it and it's weird because it's very clear, and this might just be a situation of where, like, the person might not be the best at writing, or might struggle, or maybe English isn't their first language, and some of the details that they're providing aren't very clear.
Yeah.
But from what it sounds like is there might have been like a certification or something going on that she needed to be there early for, and like that's why it was like the missing a job interview idea. But it was very clear that there was no communication that was happening prior to it. And so the update that he provides is like, thank you to these three people. Yes. Thank you. I've been doing good.
Yeah, you were doing great.
Thank you to these three people and to countless others who commented these posts. There's a lot of lack of punctuation.
Yeah.
There's no commas. I need commas. I put too many commas when I write. That's something I actively work on. These posts stuck out to me when reflecting on the situation. I think I feel better knowing that I'm not being selfish when I defend my position, since I did my best to support her with the given information. I'll be focusing on my girlfriend and I's next talk on making sure we can better understand our time requirements and expectations to avoid unnecessary confusion from both of us. The purpose of this post was, 1, to see if I was truly in the wrong, and 2, to get advice and different viewpoints from people out of our personal lives, or outside of our personal lives. So truly thank you to everyone.
Wow,
so, like,
it sounds like he got yelled at.
Yeah,
or they got yelled at, sorry.
Well, that's the thing is, it's like, reading some of the comments, no one is outright being like, you're the picklefoot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're like, there's some stuff that doesn't fully make sense. Like, some people are like, why did you plan to go and do an activity the hour before you needed to get there?
Yeah.
Which, to me, that's me, because I'm just like, I need to be here. I can't run any errands. That is time to get ready. Like, that hour before somewhere is my get ready time.
That's fair.
Which I know not everyone's like that. Some people are literally like, it takes me 20 minutes. Let me just literally 20 minutes before, which is weird because it needs to be on a 30-minute increment. 15 or 30 minutes. You can't do 20 or 25. I don't understand that. It hurts me. Anyway.
That's me.
I'm just like, I don't get it.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, my wife hates it.
It's the same. It's the same thing with like volume, though. I'm like one of those people that like has to be either like divisible. It has to be divisible by 5.
That's fair.
It needs to be on 10, 15, or 20. It cannot be on 17.
I respect it. I really do respect it.
Probably need to get that checked out, but whatever.
It's fine. He's gonna hate when he learns that these mics are on 80% volume.
No, that's fine. That's divisible by 5.
Is it?
That's fine. That's fine.
I'm bad at math as well.
If you said 87, I'd be like, at the very least, put it on 88. So that I'm
81, like, just to be weird.
No. It is divisible by 9. I would accept that.
How are you so good at math? Hold on a second.
Dungeons and Dragons, guys.
I am so sorry. That just came out of nowhere. 81. That's a big number that you divided like instantly. I am impressed.
I work with kids. It's
well done,
I have to
sir.
do their math homework sometimes. I do. Let me rephrase that. In case any of their parents are listening, I do not do your kids' math homework.
No,
I just help them come to their own thing.
Conclusions.
Yes. But
Answers.
anyways.
Solutions. Solutions is the word.
Yeah. I'm not really going to get too much into the comments because it's more of just like clarification stuff. But pretty much everyone is like, neither one here really is the picklefoot.
Yeah.
Most people here, it's like, it's clearly lack of communication was the issue. And like, I don't think you both handled it correctly when it came up.
Yeah.
I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said, when she was upset how they responded to it. Yeah. Because it's the situation too of like we even just had a situation like this the other day where like we were discussing where we wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And I was like, we had a limited amount of time to get somewhere in order to do it. So it was literally like, okay, well, these are the options that we have. And we could tell that we were like starting to bump heads. Like, you know how you get when you're like in a conversation, you can tell it's starting to get.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, we can't solve this right this second.
Yeah.
Let's take a deep breath. We'll come back. We'll deal with it. Or we'll readjust to the situation as we need to. And I think it's really important to be like, I saw a video one time and someone talked about, again, not a therapist, so don't like quote me on this.
Don't even take it from the other person.
Yeah, well, I think they might have been a therapist, but regardless.
Good for them.
But someone made a comment of like, who's the common enemy here? And it's like, the person you're arguing with 9 times out of 10 is not the person you're actually upset at or the situation you're upset at.
That's
so like
fair.
9 times out of 10, when you're yelling at each other because you're running behind somewhere, it's because the real enemy is time. The real enemy is not you two.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if someone does something incredibly intentional to make you late, then that changes.
Yep.
But anyways, all that to be said, be like cognizant of your person's feelings and don't try and explain away why they shouldn't be upset. And like, no, we're like, there's a lot of stigma around the feelings aren't facts argument. And we're not going to get into that in this podcast. We're not that kind of podcast.
Nope.
But regardless of what it is, feelings don't diffuse facts.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the other way around. Facts don't diffuse feelings.
That's true.
It's like, yes, they might, but in the height of that emotion, you're not going to have the time to be able to be like, let me think logically. Like, no, we don't think logically when we're upset.
No.
And that's why it's like, it's important to like, recognize that, help the person through it, and then be like, all right, now that we've calmed down, let's talk about it.
Yeah. And maybe it's not even that time to be able to talk. Maybe you gotta diffuse the situation as emotionally as you can. You can connect with your partner, make sure everything is okay, and be like, okay, I'm gonna let you go over. You're going to do your yoga thing. You're going to get this. I'm supporting you. We'll talk about this afterwards.
Absolutely.
Not like, oh, you're being so emotional. Can you just get over it, finish your stuff, and then we'll talk about it. No, it's like,
that'll help.
Yeah, like, I support you. I love you. I care about you. Yeah. I want to talk about this. I just can't right now, and we can't right now just because you need to be ready for this. We don't have time.
Yeah, like, you gotta, let's focus on this. I care about you. I support you. We'll talk about this afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, and I know some people stress out about it. It's like, oh, it's going to sit on the brain. Like, no, sometimes it's helpful to be like, I recognize this is an issue.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about it later.
Absolutely.
But recognizing that we do not literally have the time to be able to talk about this now.
Absolutely.
So sometimes I'm a big proponent of like, if you can talk about it, talk about it.
Yeah.
But don't leave it hanging if you can't.
Yeah.
As a former person who just goes, I was really bad at this when I was younger. I was one of those people that would go radio silent when like I was overstimulated and stressed, and it's the worst thing ever to do to someone.
Yeah,
so
don't do that.
Don't do that.
I'm glad you've grown.
Yeah.
But like what we've learned,
yes,
and we talked through this episode is basically just communication is important, which I think is true of most things, like whether you're talking about money being given or taken away from that, or you're talking about going to certain locations and like setting up calendars and making sure you get there, talking to your partners or your friends or the people that you're around, communicating with them properly so they know your expectations and you understand theirs, makes a lot of this stuff go away.
It really does. Like, honestly, just that clear setting of expectations helps a lot. And then when people if people disrespect that clear setting of expectations, now you have something to be upset about.
There you go.
Because you're like, I kind of told you what was going to happen and now you're upset. Because like, I have a lot of grace for these people who are like, like the woman in the first story, how she was like, hey, told the husband, hey, I don't want to be your calendar person anymore. And then he proceeds to continue to do that. So I'm like, okay, well, you're not the bad guy when you continually told the person, I don't want to be responsible for your calendar, and then
they didn't listen.
And then instead of being like, well, I'm not going to tell anything, you're like, yeah, fine, I'll be responsible for your calendar. I'm just, not going to deal with it one way or the other.
Well, hopefully you learned something with us today. Yeah. We had fun. I enjoyed all the stories that you get.
Yeah,
some of them were like a little bit like, oh, wow, that's a lot. But like, those were great.
Thank you.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone loved these stories as well.
Absolutely.
You enjoyed us talking through who is the picklefoot in this situation. We do have socials.
Yes.
If you want to follow us on there and follow us on this podcast, whatever you're listening to this podcast on.
Yeah,
follow us on
Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We're gonna try and get on all of the
every single one. Just like whatever, like the subscribe button or like the follow, the feed button. Just click on that, and keep following, because we're going to have another episode later on, and you're going to want to listen to that episode, and then one after that, and then one after that, and also like follow us on socials.
After that. That's the plan anyways.
It's going to keep going. We're enjoying doing this, so like please.
Yeah, I think that was good. I'm excited. This has been something we talked about for like, well, we've been talking about doing a podcast for a long time, but like it wasn't until like a Chili's night, which I feel like I'm going to be plugging Chili's a lot for some reason. I don't know, something about it. If you haven't been to Chili's in a while, go back to Chili's. Try it again.
Shout out to Chili's.
To Chili's. Sponsor us, Chili's.
Please sponsor us, Chili's.
So just a free triple dipper. I'd be all for that. But anyway. Anyways, no, but like we were talking at Chili's about many different things, but podcast came up, and I was just like, oh, this would be so much fun to do, because we already like talk about like chaos all the time. So doing it in a fun format like this would be good. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to Phillip, because he's the one who like has all the tech for all this stuff. I just provide the space. He's got the tech. So I mean,
the voice and personality and everything.
You know, so the actors and voice actors are a dime a dozen.
Well, thank you guys for listening. We will be back. I don't know what the schedule for this is going to be, but we're going to be back.
Yeah, probably
for the next episode.
The goal is once a week. That we can almost guarantee you.
We can guarantee that. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.